Hey guys, what's up? I'm wearing my conspiracy theorist hat. I'm a Martian. Marvin the Martian. Um, this hat is older than probably some people who watch my show. So, how are you guys doing? What's going on? I'm catching up on the chat. Let's see. We got Critical Cripple here. What's up, man? Never again. How you doing? Arthur Schnob, is it Schnabel? Arthur Schnabel. I probably said your name wrong, and I'm very sorry. Little Wizard Bro, how you doing, bro? Little Wizard. Is there a big Wizard Bro, or is there a big Wizard Sis or a Little Wizard Sis? Um, what's going on? We also got Nether in the chat. How you doing? Hopefully, you guys can hear me good. Okay. Ah, it's been a hectic week. We got Melissa Sarah over on Periscope. What's going on? Brain Bug, how you doing? I got your message, Brain Bug. You have to let me know. You have to let me know what time on the live stream. I'm sorry, I did not respond quickly. Tesla Ranger, how you doing? What's up, guys? I've got Nina with me. She hasn't been feeling very great, but she's a bit better now. She had some tummy issues earlier in the week. Hello, Spins. What's going on? Hey, Harmonica Man. You doing all right? But Nina, she's feeling better. She was having some tummy issues, but she's all right now. She's a bit better. So there you go. So, hey, Crimson, what's going on? So I've got my conspiracy theory hat on. Martians, Martians was a thing. Little men on Mars. Um, yeah, poor puppy. She's better now, though. She's better now. So I put a poll out about what to talk about today, and conspiracy theorists won. Donated 50. Oh, did you? I missed that. Well, thank you, Spins. $50. Woohoo! You love my mug. Smiling Game Master, how you doing, man? Um, thank you so much, Spins, for your donation. I appreciate that. So really quickly, let me bring you guys up to speed. I'm sorry, I've got a bit of foggy brain going on. So we will be talking about conspiracy theorists today. Spins donated 200. Okay, I'll have to check that, Spins. I'm not used to Twitch popping up so much. But there you go. So really, I'm getting old, guys. So my brain just stops sometimes. So we are talking about conspiracy theorists today. And I also wanted to bring you up to speed on what's going on in my world. Beanies eat your brain. Look at Tim Pool. I'm sorry, Tim Pool cannot rock this beanie like I can. And there's nothing but brains underneath here. So that's where it's a bit different. So my sister and her family, it's been a few weeks. Yes, it has been. My sister and her family have had COVID-19 since before Christmas. My mom and my stepdad have tested positive now. They all live in my neighborhood, but we haven't gotten together to congregate. We've been socially distancing. We've been wearing masks. We've been doing all of that. But my sister's husband has to leave and go to work, and he contracted it at work and brought it home. My stepdad has to leave and go to work from time to time. My stepdad has to leave and go to work, and he wears masks, but you can have the best possible situation with disinfecting everything and all of that. And still get the virus. My sister is probably a long hauler. She came over yesterday, again, socially distanced. I stayed behind my glass door just so I could see her and talk to her. She brought over a Christmas card. And she is still in a lot of pain. She's had this since the beginning of December. Her whole body hurts. She can barely sleep. And she's a former grade school teacher. And she's got a little daughter at home that she's trying to teach. COVID-19 has neurological issues, and she now has like that brain fog where she can't think straight. Because you're just so sick, nausea, all of it. It's a system-wide virus. Now, this virus probably will not kill her. She thought she was going to die over Christmas in front of her daughter, which was, going to be extremely traumatic for our family, also for my niece. But the fact that people still think that this isn't real, and I have family members suffering from it. My stepdad and my mom are getting worse, even though they've had antibody treatments. And then you have all of this other stuff going on. So the fact that people still think that this isn't real, there's a lot to be said with that. There are still people who think it's not real. Who said what? Okay. Okay. Hello, Sinister Porpoise. How you doing? So I guess what I'm trying to say is, guys, even in the best circumstances, you can still contract this virus, which means we still need to wear a mask. My mom had gotten her first dose of the COVID vaccine, but it takes a little bit to generate immunity, and she managed to contract the disease before she could, develop a substantial enough immunity to it. Hopefully she got something, but the fact that they've had antibody treatments is really, really helpful, and that will slow the progression of the virus for them, which means they're just injecting antibodies into my parents. So we've been dealing with that, and plus I've gone back to work. So the new semester is out for where I'm teaching and teach college chemistry, and I'm teaching 4 courses, all of them remote. So they get to see the same background. And if you notice, Nina over here, she's knocked down all my pop figures, and I haven't picked them up yet. She's a very naughty dog for that. So not in person. I'm not teaching in person. I'm teaching remotely. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge. And some people are like, this is more work than being in class. No, I don't think it's more work. I think it's the same amount of work. It's just different work. And once you set up an online course, they can just copy and paste the entire freaking thing into a new course. And so it's all there. And so all you're really doing is trying to overcome the impersonal aspects of, video conference discussions. And so making that enjoyable, engaging in that way, that can be tiring because you're constantly on, and and I'm a very animated person, and I got stuff to look at, so people just don't glaze over when they're watching, or engaging with me. It's that's the challenge, getting people to still put in the time to do the work as if they were in a classroom, and also, engaging them in that way. So there you go. All right, catching up. Got here a bit later, but we'll catch up soon enough. Yes, Fly Famil, how are you? You're brilliant, in my humble opinion. Is that Never Again or Sinister Porpoise, or is that me, Arthur? And if it's me, thank you. Oh my goodness. So there we go. That I'm catching you up on stuff, and I'm still working on my masterclass series, which is probably going to happen throughout this semester. Atoms first. So if you go to openstacks.org, you can get a digital copy of this textbook for chemistry. And hey, dog, how are you doing? And I will be developing videos that coincide with this textbook, as well as digital labs to go along with it. Digital labs to go along with it in order, so if you want to just see what it's like to take a college chemistry class, you can do that. So it's kind of like auditing a class without paying for it. It's all free, open education resource. It's something that the college that I work at and teach, we're moving more towards open education resources. And so the more that I do with that, the better it helps not only my students, but also this is something that other colleges could use as well. So there you go. And that's to do with my masterclass. Woohoo! And PZ Myers will be doing the biology version of that for this summer. So he's on board because OpenStax has biology textbooks as well. So I'll be working with PZ Myers for that. So I'll be doing chemistry and he will be doing biology. How awesome. Somebody was banned. Dog was banned. Dog, what did you do? You're appealing a 12-hour ban on, was this on Twitter? Non-usable. How are you doing? Okay, so I guess we can just go ahead and jump into this. I'll take all the cost-free courses I can find. Time for being a computer science student in the 70s didn't leave much time for other sciences. Cool. So yeah, you're way too cool. I'm very busy. My brain, I don't think you guys know, the past couple of weeks when I haven't been on here, I don't know, since I'm always home, I don't leave my home, I work here. I think the biggest struggle, and I'm fortunate to have a job, okay? I'm just going to say it is a privilege and an honor to be able to do what I do, and I recognize that. I do recognize that, so I want to say that because not everybody has a job, and the jobs that they have are, could be life, threatening, being out in a pandemic, and so I do what I can, to where I am, but never leaving work. It's the mindset of where, okay, I'm going to go to work now, and then I'm going to go home. There's no going to work and going home. It's all the same place. And so that makes it very, 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 very challenging mentally to get into the mentality of, I have to work now. And when is work over? And so when you're teaching remotely and it's asynchronous learning to a degree, that means you're not always, in class, even though I've requested that this time. The asynchronous learning means I need to be available to my students at all kinds of times. So office hours are not traditional. I don't have set office hours because that's kind of dumb when everybody has different schedules. So I have to set those by appointment only. So it's weird. So that's the biggest challenge, is trying to get in a work mindset. So the past couple of weeks over the holidays, when I didn't really have any work, it's been almost a month, I guess, my brain was just, hey, we're not doing anything, so what's going on? So, oh my goodness. Okay. Let's talk about conspiracy theorists. Once upon a time ago, I did an episode. Let's see. Let me swap this. I'm going to show you guys a bit. Alrighty. I don't know if you guys ever saw this episode I did. This is slides from 2017. One of the first fancy live streams I did. was on flat earthers. And people got this idea that flat earthers, like I was talking about, that they were actually scientific. Flat earth is not scientific at all in any capacity. But I would talk about why they think the way that they do. And so a lot of conspiracy theorists, a lot of the way that they think is very similar. So if you noticed before, let's take a look at like my little hold screen here. So we've got Bill Gates with a microchip and the freaking vaccine. We've got the guy who's trying to get a cow who stormed the Capitol, whatever. We've got 5G, so much stuff associated with 5G, particularly for the coronavirus. We've got QAnon, people who don't wear masks because it's conspiracy to get rid of your liberty. It's a whole lot of different stuff. Whoops. Let me see if I can. Let me fix this little screen here. That's as big as it gets. It's fine. Alrighty. QAnon shaman. So why do these folks think this way? Because, you have people who blatantly disregard evidence that's in front of them. And it becomes very emotional, right? They get very emotional over their particular conspiracies, whether it's anti-vaxxers. Bill Gates is putting microchips in vaccines. Vaccines cause autism. The coronavirus, it's a hoax. 5G spreads the coronavirus. It's going to give you the cancer and the virus. You have all of these different people who are saying this, and there's so much research that's been done, particularly with the spread of misinformation, that all this does is reinforce and feed into these conspiracy theories. So there you go. Austin, how you doing? I just wish a flurfer would show us where the actual edge of the earth is, instead of being coy about it. I would love to buy property there. You know what? I bet you it's really high-end property on the edge of the earth. It probably is. So I've talked at length about flat earthers. I did it, once. And it's interesting how fervent and violent that they can get. So let me pull this up a little bit about flat earthers. Just really quickly, just a little bit of history here in case, you didn't already know. There was a guy named Parallax. He called himself Parallax. This is what he looked like. Sam Robotham. He made this thing back in the day, zetetic astronomy, called Earth Not a Globe. And this is what he was pushing. And so flat earthers have been around for a while. This particular one, what was this one called? My brain is gone. So this is the definitive proof that he had. It was an experiment where he looked through a telescope and he said he saw two boats at 6 miles, proving that the earth was flat. So this was his whole idea, is that, if it's curved, I wouldn't be able to see them on the other side. But we all know that that's not how this works. And so he had it in his mind. If he could see it with his own eyes this way, that means this is the truth and everybody's lying to you. Why do people go that route? Why do they think that? Why do they accept that? Well, there's lots of reasons for this. Let me go to... I'm still playing around with stuff. Hey, Tony. How you doing? It's been a while. Hey, Jericho D. It's nice to see you too. I have missed you guys. It's just with, two big portions of my immediate family having COVID-19 and trying to navigate that and the holidays and everything else. It's been draining. So we saw that flawed experiment of Robotham. His telescope, it was 8 inches above the canal water, allowing refraction to interfere. So he's not taking into consideration that there's human flaws here. So how do we get away from that? How do we, as scientists, avoid saying, well, if I see it with my own eyes like this, that means it's correct? Well, we rely on multiple instruments and data from multiple sources to ensure there's no user error in our experiments. So anytime you see a publication of a paper, you're going to see several different types of experiments from different instruments to show that there's causation here, not just correlation, but that one thing is causing another thing to happen. It's not just one experiment, it's several. So flat earthers and people who are conspiracy theorists, they don't take that into consideration. There's a distinct lack of critical thinking. But also, we have to kind of think about a little, just a little bit, that it feels good to have something confirm and validate your perspective. It feels good to have that. It feels good to be right. It feels good to say, I'm smart. I figured this out. I know this. But, I've always said this. Confirmation bias is a hell of a drug. So people just buy into that and they just love it. And that makes them feel better. Hey, Lee Schaefer. They like the attention they get for being contrary. Well, that could be it as well. They like that. Hey, Jove. How's Nina the science dog doing? She's doing better. She was feeling pretty yucky before, but there's her sweet little face. There you go. She's napping right now, guys. And she knocked over all my vinyl pops. Very naughty dog, but she's feeling all right. Taking a nap. She's like, did you just wake me? She's my supervisor. Supervisor napping on the job, man. There you go. Oh my goodness. Let me try to catch up on the chat. Daryl Frost, what's going on? You can give me a flat earth argument. There are a lot of people on the internet who'll try to argue flat earth. I'm like, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for this at all. I just choose not to do that. Okay. Catching up. Alrighty. Okay. It's like, you see me looking this way. It's because I have several cameras for my job. I have like a dock cam that I use and it's like right here, but it's blocking. I have 3 screens. I feel like NASA with my setup. It's really cool. So going back to a bit about what we're discussing, it feels good to be validated. It feels good to have your bias validated. I don't know if you know this. Conspiracy theorists can be violent, guys. They can be aggressive. We had a whole thing, 2 weeks ago with an insurrection on the Capitol building by a bunch of people who have dove headfirst into the Kool-Aid. You know what I mean? Why would they do that? Why would they do that? Why would they be so fervent on that? Well, this isn't anything new. I don't know if you're familiar with Alfred Russel Wallace, one of the founders of modern biology, along with Darwin, But flat earthers, back in the day, when all of this was coming back and reliving, science was starting to bud into, evolution and biology. And, we were figuring out, how we're all related to each other, how life, came about. So it's really exciting time in science for biology. And then you got flat earthers going, yeah, but the world is flat. It's flat. It's totally flat. And if you don't, believe me, I'm going to harass you for the rest of your life. That happened to Alfred Russel Wallace. So Alfred Russel Wallace, essentially, this poor dude, he fell for a bet. He was gobsmacked, puzzled, confused, and boggled, by conspiracy theorists, particularly the flat earth movement. So Alfred Russel Wallace read that book by Parallax, and he found it to be nonsensical. as most people who are, I look at Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci, in many ways, has been harassed like Alfred Russel Wallace by conspiracy theorists over COVID-19. So, what happened? This was about 1870. 1870. So, John Hampton, he published an ad in a paper, essentially giving 500 gold British pounds bounty by flat earthers to debunk Rowbotham's experiment using the same canal. So they were going to go back and do the canal experiment. So Hampton was a Protestant rector's son who read a book by William Carpenter called Theoretical Astronomy Examined and Exposed. So Hampton, like Carpenter, wanted to rid the world of this round earth lie and persist with the earth being flat. So when we're talking about poor Wallace, one of the founders of modern biology, he thought it'd be easy money. He's like, I'm going to take this guy for his bet. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to show him how wrong he is, and we're going to, I'm going to get 500 pounds, man. That'd be great. And they called it the Bedford Level experiment. But what he failed to realize is that flat earth people are not rational. They ignored his experiment and evidence and insisted that they are right. So even though Wallace essentially proved, he essentially proved that the earth is not flat, and he did this with telescope, black band on a pole, same height as the scope. You have a red disk A, same height as the scope, and a red disk B 4 feet lower than A. So this is how he set it up. It looked just like this before. If the earth is flat, you would be able to see that red disc that's level with the other end, then it's flat. If you're able to see the one that's lower, then that means it's curved. Makes sense, right? Straightforward, pretty easy science. We're looking at red circles through a telescope. Okay, straightforward. This is pretty easy stuff. So this flat earther, this is kind of like an example of what they saw, looking through the telescope. This is an example here. So what happened? Hampton, the guy who posed this $500 or 500 gold British pound bounty, he would not look in the telescope and said that he trusted his number one, Carpenter. So Carpenter was there. He trusted Carpenter's view. Both sides viewed the same data, and they both had pictures that they posted that they sent to that magazine. And so this was their sketches. Okay, this was both of them sketched what they saw. So they saw the same thing, all right? The dude that believed the earth is flat saw the same thing. Wallace saw the same thing. They even had people verify that they were the same thing. So it didn't matter. Hampton, the data was sent to John Walsh, who posted, the editor of the Field magazine, who confirmed Wallace as the winner of the bet and published the results. Hampton had to pay the $500, but sued Wallace for 15 years, trying to get the money back, and sent abusive letters and even death threats. Wallace, in turn, had libel suits against Hampton, as well as court orders to cease and desist. So Hampton, conspiracy theorist, flat earther, lost his own bet and then proceeded to harass the other person for 15 years, including faulty lawsuits, death threats, and abusive letters to not only Wallace, but his wife. So this isn't new with conspiracy theorists being violent. They really, it's just, they want to be right, and they're going to be passionate about being right because it feels good to be right. Let me see if I can catch up on the chat here. How you guys doing? Let me see. I need to catch up. Here we go. Okay. Yeah, they do cling to it even harder, Lee Schaefer. Nothing will make people change their mind who believe in wacky stuff. In fact, the results is they cling to it even harder. That's right. That's right, Lee. Hey, let's see. So I'm not a flat earth, just a flat spacer, Daryl Frost. Oh my goodness. Hollow earthers too. Oh my gosh. Hey, Mr. Shadow Kitty. I don't know if I said hi to you yet. Oh my goodness. I'm trying to catch up. I'm seeing if there's any questions. I just laugh. I think it's funny. Says never again. I've heard Kansas is flatter than the earth is. That's probably true. I've driven through Kansas and I almost fell asleep because there's nothing to look at. It's that Kansas, if you drive through Kansas, get you some really loud, like Rob Zombie music or maybe Nine Inch Nails or something, just the whole time. Just blare it as loud as you can because you could have just woken up and had 3 coffees in you driving through Kansas and you're going to go to sleep. It's weird. Okay. All right. I think I've caught up pretty much. Just because you're awesome. Thank you, dog. 2 gold British pounds. Woohoo. I appreciate this. I'm working on getting the super chat things to post up here again. I've had to change doing certain things so it doesn't push so heavy on there. Space is fake, says Donk. Space is fake. No, it's not. It's not. We're all in the Matrix. That's what this is. That's what this is. Oh, goodness. Okay. My favorite experiment was when a flat earther measured the rotation of the earth and got 15 degrees an hour, says Little Wizard. Hello, Missy Ann. You just woke up. Woohoo. Welcome to another day of life. Waking up is great, I guess. And sometimes I want to be back asleep, if I'm honest. Okay, so we know flat earthers can be pretty just, why do they think this way? But it's not just that. We look at QAnon, we look at 5G, we look at vaccines cause autism. But, why? Why are they clinging on to all of these things? I hope I can find these scopes on Twitter. I don't like Twitter. Where we'll I'm actually on YouTube, youtube.com/ScientistMel, Lee Schaefer, youtube.com/ScientistMel. I also stream on DLive as well as Twitch and facebook.com/ScientistMel. So if you prefer to not watch it on Twitter, you can watch it on YouTube, you can watch it on Facebook, you can watch it on Twitch, and you can watch it on DLive. So lots of places to hop around if you don't like watching it on Twitter. Just some people have, different preferences, and that's all right. Okay, so this is what I had talked about last time when I was discussing flat earthers. Cool. Cool, Lee. I love YouTube. Awesome. All right, so the importance of being right. We kind of beat this into people's heads, don't we? We do this, we see this, it's culture driven. America, making America great again. We're right. We're the best country in the world. And you're like, no, we're really not. We're really, really not the best country in the world. And not anymore. If you ever watch, I think The Newsroom, I think is what it is. Jeff Daniels plays a character in the pilot episode. It involved, a particular speech that he had where he was talking about, he was answering a question in a college. America is not the greatest country in the world, not anymore. And he gets into detail. So we haven't been great. We've never actually been really freaking great. But the way that we have started to treat people, we've gotten worse. So in that respect, with poverty and education and things like that, it's gotten worse. Hey, Exhibis. It's I am okay. I know it's been a little while, and I'm sorry for my absence. Trying to deal with family who has COVID-19, and then being at home all the time. I just like brain was just not 100%, man, and it happens to the best of us. So there you go. So when we're dealing with conspiracy theorists, we beat it into our society that you have to be right. Even we even set it down to education. If you're not right, you fail, right? We don't promote asking good questions. We promote what is the answer. And so when I was teaching high school, like high school biology, and that later chemistry, and I also taught physical science, you're sitting there and you're trying to get students to process the information when all they do is just rote memorization, which is the most basic form of learning. And so people are only motivated to get the right answer, not go through the process of how do you get the right answer. And so in education, where we deal with some universities, your whole grade is 3 tests. I don't do that. I don't teach that way because I'm a terrible test taker. Oh, frozen. What just happened? Ah, sorry. Don't know what happened. I froze for a second, but what's new? All right. So I'm a terrible test taker. So I try to give my students multiple ways to show me what they know because that's what it comes down to. And it's okay to be wrong. It is okay to be wrong. We're not going to learn unless we're wrong. So we have it embedded in our culture down to our education system. Like if you're wrong, you're too embarrassed to ask a question because you think it might be stupid. You're too embarrassed. Maybe I got the wrong answer. And so my teacher's going to think I'm dumb. I don't want them to think I'm dumb. And it also is correlated with weakness. I'm wrong a lot. And that's okay. I'm not going to be right about everything. And it's all right for me to be wrong sometimes because then I get an opportunity to learn something new. And so we have a whole culture surrounding being right that people are willing to have acts of hate in order to show how right they are. And so it's not unusual. I wasn't surprised at all that the Capitol building got stormed by a bunch of people who believe these conspiracies. That didn't surprise me. I kind of expected that, to be quite honest. And that's sad for me to say. That makes me sad that I would just expect that from our country. What does that say about our country that, and this was warned by other experts earlier last month that, hey, we're going to look at a coup attempt. Historians were saying this is leading up to a coup. And sure enough, this is what happened. So journalists and historians were already saying this is probably what's going to happen now. Look at everything that's being posted. So yes, people will fight, and they will fight tooth and nail just so they can say that they're right because it feels good. So yes, let me catch up on the chat. Let's see. My family has not fully recovered Exhibis, but they'll get there. It's just kind of a mess. It's all right. Let's see. Will Trump's new party have an orange banner? I don't know. I think he bathes in Cheeto dust. I think he does that. What is the price of being right? Well, the price is right. Well, see, we even have game shows about if you're not right, you don't get the money. So, I mean, I've kind of reached a point now that I think game shows are just dehumanizing to a degree. I kind of feel like these people are doing ridiculous stuff just for an opportunity for money when we could just really pay people better and make certain they have stuff that they need rather than feed that whole ideology that I have to have better cars than my neighbors, you know? I don't know. Yes. It's sad but not surprising. Yeah, Miss Ian. Were we all warned? Why wouldn't we be expecting it? Says Never Again. Well, did you hear some of the things that had happened prior to the attempted coup? They had ripped panic buttons out of certain offices. They lowered the amount of Capitol Police that would be there that day. Some Capitol Police, there was an interview, I need to try to find it, where they were told to let them in. So this was planned. There was a party for Trump and his family where they were drinking champagne and dancing while they watched the coup happen. I mean, and this entire rally of his was paid for by him. So Trump paid for this. And I believe they're investigating whether or not buses were provided. I think a lot of the issue is that people did not understand what a coup was in the first place. It's funny because a lot of these people who stormed the Capitol thought that they were doing the right thing. They were convinced. They were absolutely convinced that they were doing the right thing. And it's like, why would you think that? Well, they stole the election. They stole the election. They had that beaten into their brain so much by a man that they respect, and who says words that they relate to. So this man is saying things that they can relate to. He's doing things that they wish they could do. How many, he sat there and bragged about not paying taxes and dodging taxes. Oh, taxes are evil, aren't they? And so when you're dealing with somebody who is like, gosh, man, I'm so sick of paying taxes. Look at this guy. He made all this money. He didn't have to pay taxes. I want to be like him. He can do whatever he wants and he doesn't get in trouble. So I can do whatever I want and not get in trouble because he told me that I can. So when you have somebody who's saying the things that you like to hear, and they're giving you, like, firing you up, getting you to feel that little fire in your belly, like, I finally feel passionate about something. And this man is saying these things that, that are making me feel good. And look at him. I've seen him on the TV. I know who he is. He's, he talks like I talk. It's just, you have that. You're going to push people into doing things that are just horrible. Let's see. I'm just trying not to say to them what they said to me in 2016 because I refuse to argue with closed-minded humans. It's a waste of time. I don't argue with them either. I'm not a debate me bro person. I have information and I'm happy to give it to you person. If somebody's like, debate me, bro, debate is about winning an argument. I'm like, there's no winning an argument for whether or not evolution's real, if the world is an oblate spheroid, if viruses evolve. There's no debate there. There's correct and there's incorrect. So yes, that's where we get back to the whole idea, the importance of being right, but we put so much weight on if we are right or not. We put so much weight on that. So people just, they have to be right. If they're seen as wrong, they're going to be, ostracized. They're going to be ostracized. Daryl Frost says, you're saying knowledge and understanding are two different things. You need to teach understanding and how to learn. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I don't have knowledge on a lot of astrophysics. Well, I have a little bit of knowledge, but I didn't fully, like, relativity. Even though I've gone to school and all that sort of thing, relativity escaped me for a long time. I knew what it was. and I had knowledge of it, but I didn't understand it at all. And then it took a while of me just spinning. I took because relativity came up as a topic that people wanted me to talk about on the show, and I'm sitting here going, "Oh, that's great. I don't understand it at all." You know? So when that came up, I'm going, "Okay, well, I better go learn relativity." So I spent that entire week. I had a working knowledge of what relativity is, but I didn't understand. I didn't understand it. I could tell you E equals mc squared. I could tell you what all those variables mean, how they interact with each other, but I didn't understand it so much. And so once I understood the application of relativity, bing, I was so happy because that thing didn't understand it for the longest time. Hey Titan, how you doing? Okay. There is a major need of exposure. Yes, I'm going to talk about that here in just a. Mel is going full comrade. I think socialism is the word. I'm not really a communist person. I think we need to invest in programs that help our society so that basic needs are met. That's my thought. Let's see. There is proof that the wife of a Supreme Court justice paid for many of the buses, according to Titan. Huh. So I guess we're going to have lots of impeachments over the next 4 years, huh? Maybe. That's why they brought the pipe bombs with them. Yeah, it was there. You know, people were like, "Oh, it was just a riot." No, no, no. This was a terrorist attack. While not everybody there might have had plans on storming the Capitol, that was clearly the goal. Okay, so let's. There are people who are sitting there going, "Well, I don't want to just call them all terrorists." Okay, well, if we're going to get extremely specific, all these conspiracy theorists that showed up, whether they actually believed the stuff or not, is whether or not they're conspiracy theorists. That's one. Are they terrorists? Well, they had zip ties. They were posting stuff about who they were going to kill on social media. Panic buttons were ripped out. People were had pipe bombs, Molotov cocktails. You don't do that when you're going to a protest or a rally to talk about issues that you don't like. You go there to burn stuff down and to, blow up things. And it's the Capitol building. So this was the goal. So the goal was terrorism. So anybody who was involved with that is a terrorist. So you're using fear and violence for political gain. That's terrorism. So those people there are white terrorists. They may not, there may be some there that had no interest in breaking into the Capitol, but once they started and engaged in that, yes, that's terrorism. You're using violence for a political gain. And they, again, just going to keep throwing this at you. Right here. I mean, for real. I did my Flat Earther show. What? 4 years? Almost 4 years ago. Even though we did that, it's still true. It's still true. Hey, Chad. We are talking about conspiracy theorists. You doing all right? I'm catching up on the chat now. Hello, Ox. How you doing? Yes, Tesla Ranger. I never thought leopards would eat my face, sobs woman who voted for the leopards eating people's faces party. It's kind of like, it's just kind of, that's the truth, honestly. Let's see. Oh my goodness. Yeah, people abandon reason. So I'm going to pull up some science here for you guys about this. And Pew Review has done some pretty cool research. I tend to go to them when we're dealing with perception of things. They have some really good stuff. Um, Never Again says, did you catch the clip on the Vice News clip where the guy said socialist and somebody corrected him to communist and he just echoed what he was told? That's, I'm not surprised. Carl Fisher, how you doing? Constitution Amendment 14, Article 3, insurrection supporters can't hold any office. There you go. Well, we actually had members of, I think the House of Representatives in that particular thing. They need to be kicked out. Oh my gosh. Let's see. Silly me, how are you doing? We've got, let's see. I said hi to Chad. How you doing? Catching up now. Let's see. I take education seriously and these folks make me sad. I agree. I'm a budding college chemistry professor. And it's just like all the time. I hear you. Hearing Mel take the stuffing out of them helps in some strange way and I learn stuff. It's funny how that works. Yeah. Let's see. So, kind of wrapping up that little section there. Let's see. So, when we're dealing with conspiracy theorists, there's a need to be right in society, and we see it as mandated. It's reinforced everywhere. It drives acts of hate, including war, as well as violence, and the educational system is set up to be right or wrong answers. We don't see a lot of praise for asking interesting questions. So we don't see people going, "Hey, that's a really great question." I try to do that when I'm teaching, but we don't see a lot of praise for that. If you get the wrong answer, it's embarrassing. People get embarrassed and you think, "Oh, they think I'm stupid, What am I going to do? I'm good. My professor thinks I'm dumb." So people have this need to be right because of pressures through society and institutional applications, including the educational construct. So our society is in a race to be right all of the time. Look at social media, how many fights people get into. They will sit there and resort to verbal abuse and just scream and holler and yell at people. And there's this need to be right. We want to be the person in our job who has the right answers. So being wrong is seen as a weakness in society. So if you are wrong, you're stupid, weak, incompetent. This is not the case, but it is regularly viewed this way. Now, it's okay to be wrong, but you're still going, people just get upset. Let's see. Yeah, we need to get rid of the politicians that are caught up in all of this. Non-oozable. Sinister Porpoise says, "Hey, now, if it weren't for snarky verbal abuse, I wouldn't have a YouTube channel." And, that's fine. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with people who comment on stuff. All right, so I don't know if you guys are aware of something called system justification. You guys familiar with system justification? Anybody familiar with that? I talk a bit. This is essentially what we're dealing with when we're dealing with flat earthers. You have system justification. You have political psychology, self-interest, dominance, resistance, in-group bias, ethnocentrism, homophily, and out-group antipathy. So these are all characteristics that we would see with conspiracy theorists, right? These different kind of concepts here. Let's go through a little bit what these are. So when we're talking about group justification, what we mean is this justification system. It's self-evidently true, meaning they are only going to believe what they think they see. So when we're dealing with the QAnon, we're dealing with the anti-vaxxers, we're dealing with the 5G causes the Rona, when we're dealing with conspiracy theorists, they're only going to believe what they think they see. We look at, back at Parallax when we're dealing with Wallace and Hampton and the flat earth bet. That's what they're looking for. It also serves their own interests. It doesn't serve anybody else's interests. It serves their own interests. So it's deeply personal. They develop their own ideologies for this justification. So the coup attempt on the Capitol, they've developed their own ideas and they are justifying this behavior because of what they think they see. They take preference for those who are like them. So you're like, oh, these people are nothing like Donald Trump. He has all this money and all this stuff. But aren't they, though? Aren't they, a bit like him? They want the ability to be able to break the rules without any consequence. They don't want to have to pay taxes. They want to be racist all that they want. They want to be bigoted. They want to oppress other people. They're going to develop a preference for people who are similar to them, even if you're dealing with people who live in practically, much lower means than Donald Trump. If he says things that they like, they're going to buy into it. They're going to be hostile and prejudicial to those outside of their circle. So when we're talking about this group justification, this is what we mean. They are all about their own group. They will be hostile to anybody that's outside of their group. They will seek conflict, not resolution. Conspiracy theorists are not interested in correct answers. They're not interested in resolving anything. They're interested in causing conflict. Now, it's not surprising that we have seen a rise in conspiracy theorists because of the fact that social constructs have become more threatened. Gay marriage is allowed now. And so all of the people who had issues with that are now seeing this as, oh my gosh, they're taking away, they're destroying regular marriage. And now, we see Black Lives Matter. Oh my gosh, they're taking away my superiority and all of the benefits that I get from white privilege. No, it's just, we're leveling the playing field. But anytime that they see their traditions and their conservatism, that's a bias. We've always done it this way. We've always done it this way. Why can't we keep doing this way? That's conservatism. So that's one of those biases that they play into. They don't like change. So anytime that you see change in something that's a social, societal constructs or, the classism that we see, they see changes in that. You're going to see an increase in conspiracy theorists because they are feeling threatened. Even though they're really not being threatened, they just see it that way. I'm wearing my conspiracy theorist hat. Martians. There's Martians on Mars. So yeah. So let me catch up on the chat a little bit. Well, I'm not a sociologist, Senator Porpoise, but my first master's is Master's of Arts in Teaching, specialized in secondary science education. That's technically a psych degree, but it's okay. Let me see. Become a journalist. You'll be told wrong all the time. Giving a wrong answer, most will then never forget the correct answer again. That's true, silly me. Oh my goodness. I'm catching up. People get triggered because they have cognitive dissonance about their beliefs. That's true, Mr. Shadow Kitty. Cognitive dissonance is painful. And when people are presenting with information that conflicts their deeply held belief system, it is painful because then they have to come to the conclusion that they have been lied to or they're lying to themselves. And that's something that we don't take into consideration so much. So when I see people arguing on the internet and yelling at each other on the internet. Every once in a while, I'll dunk on somebody. I'm not going to lie. But usually I'm punching up. I don't usually punch down unless somebody's being particularly abusive. So, like, okay, I'll highlight the abuse. Don't do this. Block and move on. But people who argue on the internet, and I find this a lot with people who call themselves skeptics. They will sit and dunk on people over and over and over again and yell at them and scream at them and swear at them and do these things. And I'm going, are you trying to change their mind, or are you just entertaining yourself or other people? Because if you expect to change somebody's mind, if that is your goal, then doing that's not going to work. It's going to make you look like the enemy, and it's going to reinforce the fact that they should be hostile towards you. I mean, that's how it goes. So, so people who come at me and want to scream at me, or I've had people yell at me because I wouldn't dunk on religion. And I'm like, that's not what I do here. And then people would yell at me because I disagree with their perspective and they're so-called skeptics. I'm like, I don't have to talk to you. And this isn't the way to get me to listen to you. And so when you're trying to talk to a conspiracy theorist, I mean, first of all, I don't think you're going to get very far. Secondly, usually what I do, if somebody is like a debate me bro flat earther, I send them a link to how to pick an appropriate psychologist to deal with their problems, because there's problems there. And I'm not a certified, therapist or anything. So I'm like, you need to go to a therapist, and there's nothing wrong with going to therapy, but you need to do that and sort yourself. So that's why I don't fight with people on the internet. The debate me bro crap is so dumb, and it's just irritating. It's just irritating. Amiga Nuts, how you doing? I'm trying to catch up on the chat. So it's not just flat earthers as anybody, It's a foil-lined beanie. It might be. It's a Tim Pool hat. My hat is cooler, guys, and I have brains under here, okay? I have brains underneath this hat. I have pieces of paper showing that I've gone through training, verifying I have brains under this hat. People argue on the internet? Really? I know. It's just, God, Ox, it's just so strange, It's brand new concept. So, changing someone's mind will take months or years. That's true, Amiga Nuts. Now put on a hoodie for me, please. I got a hoodie on right now. Here, how about this? How about I do this? Is this cool? Here's my new look. Am I one of the cool kids now? I have on a hoodie and a beanie. Is that for it? Never again. You got it? Lil Wizard Bro says, ScientistMel, I was homeschooled through Young Earth Creationist Alt-Right Academy and spent 10 years following Alex Jones like he was Jeebus' chosen warrior, so I know what you mean. I grew up in a very, very strong religious background. I won't talk much about religion on here, but I understand a lot what they're doing. So I'm full of smarticles. Mr. Shadow Kitty. That should be a t-shirt, guys. I'm full of smarticles. Be like, what is that? People who watch my show come up with the best things to say. It's great. I want it printed on a hoodie so I can buy it and support the channel. Cool. I can put it on a hoodie. What, smarticles? Mel is full of smarticles. Smarticles, I like that. I like that too. People who watch my show come up with the coolest stuff. So when we're dealing with conspiracy theorists, right? This is some of the things, that I pulled, again. You can actually find my slides. I need to update my website, but a lot of my older slides from my shows are on scientistmel.com/resources. So you can download those and use them for your own, you know, intents and purposes if you want to have a talk somewhere. Oh, cool. Smarticles. Well, I will make some stuff. I got pictures of some of the things. I've redone some of the little animated GIF images that I have, you know, for like my show and stuff, which I think is cool. So some of these things when we're dealing with, hopefully you can hear me now. Yeah, I didn't have any sound on the other one. Why do conspiracy theorists have their thing? Oh, Neen is up. Little Neen, science doggo. She finally sat up, so I thought I would pop this up. Neen. Now she's curled up like a Pokemon. Okay. Yeah, the audio cut out because of the fact. Sorry. Do I have sound here? I think I have sound here. Yes, I do have sound here. Okay. I'm trying a new thing, and so since I'm trying a new thing, sometimes the sound doesn't work, so I'm taking notes as we go. And now she's in triple mode. Yes. Oh my goodness. So when we're dealing with conspiracy theorists, why are they buying into this stuff? Why are they buying into this stuff? Well, you know, social belonging. That could be an aspect of it. They feel powerful when they belong to a particular group. They need to belong in society. And, you know, this is common. We want to be a part of a group. You know, we want to be our tribe, you know, comfort in numbers, right? So this social belonging, to be part of a super secret group that has all the correct answers, that has the true knowledge. Oh, wait, she's stretching now. Let's go back and look. Ah, oh, we missed it. Neen. What you doing? It's a science doggo. She's just sitting there. Trump is the smartiest, says dog. It's okay, Neen. She's a floof. This show is a Smarticles accelerator. Ah. Oh my goodness. Okay. You guys are a trip. You guys are a trip. All right. Did you know that there's two mental sections? You have your suspicious and your reflective brain. It's like your lizard brain and your human brain, right? Oh, goodness. You have the suspicious and you have the reflective brain. And so your suspicious is like your instinct type of brain, your instinctual brain, like, oh my gosh, you know, what's going, you know, your lizard brain for survival. And then your reflective is like when you're thinking about, we're still in here. I don't know what's going on. Sometimes my screens act weird. So your reflective brain is where you go back and you think about what's going on. And this is normal. We all have this. We all have these different aspects of our brain. So with your suspicious brain, your instinct brain, if you are in the woods and you hear a twig break, you will think, is this going to hurt me? You know, if you're camping and you hear like a little break of a twig, your reflective brain usually kicks in and allows you to rationalize if a situation is dangerous or not, right? So a twig snap, is it a squirrel or is it a bear? You know? So if you hear sound rustling around, oh my gosh, something's going to get me. And you're like, oh, it's just a little snap of a twig. It's probably just like a little squirrel or something. It's not a bear or anything. So what happens is when your suspicious brain, if it's overactive and the reflective side doesn't keep up, too much suspicious brain activity leads to irrationality. So I mentioned before about how people feel, you know, they fear change. So as societal constructs shift, we have more equality, we have acceptance of LGBTQ plus people, This challenges some of those perspectives that people had to where they're like, oh my God, I don't want this to change. That suspicious side that is kicking in and it's becoming irrational. The reflective side is not, it's not doing its job. And so the more people get afraid, the more they feed into that suspicious side, the quieter that reflective brain gets. And that's kind of what the biggest problem is associated with conspiracy theorists. They're irrational. You can't reason with them. Not when they're in that constant suspicious state. So I don't engage in arguments with people like this over the internet. Be careful to not give them a voice. You don't want to amplify their message because we have something called bandwagon bias. The more people believe a particular thing, the more it's perceived to be true. So we had a whole issue with vaccines cause autism. Thank you, Daily Mail, for perpetuating that. And there wasn't enough pushback. There wasn't enough when that paper was pulled. The media did not give that as much exposure about how wrong it was to counter all of the damage that they had been doing. What you can do is promote correct information. You can check your sources and be positive. Be positive when you're doing that sort of thing. Let me pull up. I wanted to. I have a few things I'm going to kind of show you real quick. I pulled all this stuff up. That's not what I want. I'm trying really hard to pull up some things. All right. That's not what I want either. That might be why my computer keeps crashing. Freaking Chrome ruins everything. Chrome ruins everything. Okay, let me see. All right. So, I found this article to be pretty cool. And I'm going to post this. Ooh, I'm super bright. Super bright, guys. This is from Pew Research Center. And I'm going to post this in the side chat so you'll be able to have a look. And so you can click on that link there. Pew Research does a lot of work on perception research and what people think are true or not. Let me see. I'm going to catch up on the chat really quickly. There is a condition called imposter syndrome when even when people know they have it, their brain still tells them that people around them have been replaced with imposters. The imposter syndrome I know of is where you feel like you're an imposter and that even though you're successful and you've done well in your job and you've done great with education, that you're afraid other people might think that you're not qualified for your job. So that's the imposter syndrome I know. Okay, so my giant screen. I have a huge screen here. Look, it's like super like reflecting whiteness on me. Like it looked like I haven't been in the sun in 45 years. So you can check this out too. We have had an increase. Let's see. We have had an increase in people getting involved in conspiracy theories since the beginning, from early to late 2020. So Pew Research has said Americans' awareness of the conspiracy theories called QAnon increased dramatically from early to late 2020. About half of Americans say they've heard about QAnon conspiracies. So it's widely known. QAnon is not something that's a big old secret, much like flat earthers. We know people think that. Americans with high political knowledge are more likely than others to have heard of these conspiracy theories. Those are people who stay on top of stuff. The majority of Americans who have heard of QAnon think it's a bad thing for the country. So good news there. Good news there. That's about, let's see, almost 8 in 10 Democrats who have heard of QAnon, 77% say it's a very bad thing, and another 13% say it is somewhat a bad thing. And on the other hand, only about a quarter of Republicans who have heard of QAnon, 26%, feel it is very bad for the country, while 24% say it is somewhat bad. So Republicans have bought the Kool-Aid, just like dove headfirst into the QAnon Kool-Aid. So only a fourth of Republicans who are aware of QAnon think it's bad. This came out in, do we have November 16th, 2020. So this is pretty recent. There was a separate content study of YouTube by the center that found in December 2019, mentions of QAnon were concentrated in a very small number of the most viewed news channels. So overall, 5% of videos published by the 100 most viewed YouTube news channels at the time of the study included the word QAnon. The vast majority of those mentions came from just a handful of YouTube news channels. 11 of these channels studied produced 80% of the videos mentioning QAnon. So this is something that several of the 11 channels were terminated by YouTube in October, including some channels that mentioned QAnon the most in September 2020. Tim Pool, you are about to lose your job. You are about to lose your job. Take it up now. You are about to lose your job. No, YouTube is not a good place to get your primary information. Tim Pool is going to lose his job. Tim Pool is going to lose his job. Check it out. Tim Pool is going to lose his job. Oh my goodness. Hello, Christina Reyna. How you doing? Good to see you here. I'm just catching up on the chat. Let's see, X-Files. Oh goodness. The Kool-Aid. the QAnon Kool-Aid. Oh my goodness. So I posted the link to that Pew Research in the chat. Let's talk a bit about how QAnon helped. I've got another big article here. And I'll post this in the chat as well. Let's see. Copy. All right. So here's another one. So American University in Washington, D.C. Posted a breeding ground for conspiracies, how QAnon helped bring about the U.S. Capitol assault. So how did this happen exactly? Oh, sorry. Let me see. Okay. Let me go to smaller me. There we go. This might be a bit hard to read, but I did post the link in the side chat, so you should be able to click on that if you like. So QAnon's core belief system. Let's kind of look at some of these things. Belief is that a secret pedophilic cabal of major news figures, celebrities, authors, billionaires, elected officials, and Democratic Party officials is conspiring to take over the world. The only thing in their way is President Trump, who is fighting an underground war against them. QAnon mainly lives on social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter. It often uses hashtags and group names seemingly unrelated to QAnon. Indeed, many people receive news and information that originates from QAnon without realizing where it comes from. And so this gets into the history a bit of how QAnon started. So if you're curious, you can, I'm not going to read all through that. So political scientists, Joseph Usinski and Joseph Parent have pointed out conspiracy theories are often release valves for social groups which feel powerless. Remember I mentioned about how that suspicious brain is constantly going and the reflective brain's not kicking in because changes are happening and people are uncomfortable with change? Well, political scientists agree with this particular thing. Not necessarily agree with me. I'm pulling my information from these experts. So I'm not a political scientist. I'm not a social scientist or anything like that. But I am pulling my information from multiple sources to kind of validate what these political scientists are saying. So federal government. So here we got federal government insufficiencies and failed Trump campaign promises thus far transformed via QAnon into firm convictions that a nefarious cabal is obstructing the president. So they believe that the government is corrupt and they're, causing all of this to happen. So historically, in recent history, as coronavirus lockdowns have intensified, QAnon support has likewise ballooned, both in the United States and abroad, despite the American-centric viewpoint. QAnon has strangely validated those hurt by pandemic lockdowns by providing a simple, if dangerous, explanation for what is happening. So the government is doing all of these things. So here we've got the government is doing all of these things. We've got the 5G. We've got all of these other things happening. We got the microchips. Wearing a mask is mind control. So it's easy to blame the government and to buy into that if things are happening that are making you upset or uncomfortable. And so in many ways, QAnon helped bring about the U.S. Capitol assault. QAnon is a community effort which draws people together to form the conspiracy ad hoc. So by encouraging audience to research the topics online, leading users on spirals of increasingly extreme content, QAnon begins to flood them with junk data that inhibits their ability to tell truth from fiction. So QAnon kind of helped this out a bit because it buys into and feeds into those feelings of distrust and those feelings of fear of change, of societal change, and that sort of thing. So a little bit more information from the article. With President Trump leaving office after the 2020 election, QAnon communities have been thrown into chaos. Many quickly integrated claims of voter fraud into their central thesis. 2 men were even arrested near Philadelphia's counting centers with a car laden with rifles and QAnon paraphernalia. Many claims about voting fraud in the election, including about Dominion voting machines, have perpetuated by QAnon adherents. And to many adherents of QAnon, Trump's loss represents not a defeat of the movement, but just one more front in the war with the cabal. And the shocking January 2021 events at the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. were driven at least partially by that belief. So the idea that the election was fraudulent fed into the QAnon conspiracy that this evil cabal is controlling the government and Biden is going to be a puppet for them. So that, again, feeds into and gives some justification in the minds of the insurrectionists that what they did is okay. They can place the blame on the government. So if you've noticed before, I've talked in the past about the science of manipulation. It froze on me again. It froze on me. I don't know why it does that sometimes. But one example, when I've talked about the science of manipulation. Yes. We were talking about the Milgram experiment in that particular live stream. People will do absolutely horrible things if they can pass the buck of responsibility. We learned that with the Milgram experiment, where the I was just following orders crowd was studied. And there's been lots of different versions of the Milgram experiment. So if you're able to pass the buck or place responsibility on somebody else, you can do horrible things. I mean, that's how we had the Holocaust. That's how we had I was just following orders. Well, what does that mean? They're passing the buck of responsibility onto the officer that was in charge. It's their fault, not mine. And then the officer could say, I was just following orders. It's not his fault. It's, the general's fault. And if it's not the general's fault, then it's Hitler's fault. So there's no personal accountability whatsoever. And if you can sit here and justify in your mind that you have no personal accountability for what you're doing, you're going to do awful things. At least if that suspicious side of your brain is going, and your reflective, rational side is not being listened to. Oh my God, we're all going to die. This is going to on fire. You don't understand. The government's terrible. They're watching us. They're putting chips in. And it's just that suspicious side is out of control and going unchecked. And this is where we have a lot of the different cognitive biases that kick in. That suspicious side, evolutionally, for an evolutionary aspect, is there to help save your life. Okay? It's there to have a cautious, respectful fear for your survival instinct. But if it's not really a bear in the woods and it's a squirrel, and you're not taking a moment to reflect and think about things, and you're allowing yourself to spiral into that particular realm, that's where we're seeing problems. People are not reflecting. They're not thinking through. So let me catch up on the chat. Titan says, ScientistMel, yesterday my pillow guy had the notes about martial law and blaming Iran, China. Oh my goodness. It's just nothing surprised me. And if it's not Hitler's fault, it's Hitler's mom's fault. That's right, never again. And then let's go ahead and blame the fact that those people who didn't like his art possibly fueled the fire and made him angry. So let's blame them too. But the government is made up of the people. The passing the buck to the government I find very confusing. Yes, I know, Amiga Nuts. I get you. Hey, stuck in Florida. Oh, goodness. How you doing? Everything is nuts, man. It's just all nuts. Okay. I'm going to pull up. Let's see. There's, and guys, honestly, there's a lot of science here. I'm going to copy this and put this in the side chat for you so you can have a look. So you can have a look here. So we're seeing publications on misinformation. This was published October 14th, 2020. Let me do here. Smaller me. Okay, so this particular study, susceptibility to misinformation about COVID-19 around the world. I'm just going to go through little portions of the abstract, but you can read the full paper. I posted it in the side chat for you. Let's see. They had a huge N equals a lot of numbers. So that's how many participants they had. They had a lot of people. We examined predictors of belief in the most common statements about the virus that contain misinformation. So they say here. We also investigate the prevalence of belief in COVID-19 misinformation across different countries and the role of belief in such misinformation in predicting relative health behaviors. So keep in mind, misinformation feeds conspiracy theorists. This was pretty interesting. We find that while public belief in misinformation about COVID-19 is not particularly common, a substantial proportion views this type of misinformation as highly reliable in each country surveyed. So while most people, while public belief in misinformation is not common for COVID-19, there are huge percentages of the population in different countries that find this reliable information. In addition, a small group of participants find common factual information about the virus highly unreliable. So people who have actual factual information about the virus, they think it's unreliable. And we're like, what? You know, come on now. I mean, but that's what they think. And they said, we also find that increased susceptibility to misinformation negatively affects people's self reported compliance with public health guidance about COVID 19, as well as people's willingness to get vaccinated against the virus and to recommend vaccine to vulnerable friends and family. So, that increased susceptibility, the more people are exposed to misinformation, it's going to negatively affect their self reporting of how often they follow the guidelines and them actually getting the vaccine. This was interesting too. Across all countries surveyed, we find that higher trust in scientists and having higher numeracy skills were associated with lower susceptibility to coronavirus misinformation. What does that mean? That means the perception of scientists as well as the ability to critically think. If you have trust in scientists and you have critical thinking abilities, you have less susceptibility to misinformation. So this is what they say. Taken together, these results demonstrate a clear link between susceptibility to misinformation and both vaccine hesitancy and a reduced likelihood to comply with health guidance measures, and suggest that interventions which aim to improve critical thinking and trust in science may be a promising avenue for future research. So essentially, trust in scientists and critical thinking skills are extremely important. Now, if you've watched my channel often, I often go to the National Science Foundation for their science indicators and discuss the latest on America's perception of science, technology, as well as their ability to answer basic science questions. Our illiteracy our literacy isn't getting better. Our scientific literacy is getting worse, and people are starting to not trust scientists so much. So we're dealing with real issues here about this. We're dealing with real issues about this. Let me see. B, no, just B. Hey, how you doing? You listening at work? Sweet. Thanks for listening. J.I. Person, how are you doing? Geo Sam, what's going on? I'm trying to catch up on people if I didn't say hi to them before. All right. Okay, I've even heard health professionals who should be mandated say they won't get the vaccine. Yes, I'm actually a person who educates health professionals, whether it's, and keep in mind, medical technicians, nurses, let's see, nursing assistants, they don't get the same education as like a doctor or a pharmacist would get. They go through a separate program. They can get a bachelor's in nursing and that sort of thing, but knowing how most of the nursing programs that I know, they don't spend a lot of time on immunology, how vaccines work. They talk about pathophysiology, they talk about anatomy and physiology, a little bit of chemistry, not a whole lot. So you have medical professionals who have not had the same training as like a medical doctor or a pharmacist, where they would understand how vaccines work, how immunology works, how viruses work. They don't get the same level of education. Now, that's not a knock on nurses, but we have a systemic problem with healthcare professionals being susceptible to conspiracy theories because they're not being told how the science works. They're not being taught that. And to be quite honest with you, I did go to nursing school and I left. It's not my jam. I am much more analytical, research-oriented brain, academic, not really nursing material. That's okay. I have a great respect for nurses, but a lot of the doctors were jerks. So the ones in my experience, I saw them yelling at nurses. Maybe it's gotten better now, but when I was there, it was horrible. Doctors were verbally abusive to nurses. So it's really hard as a nurse to take any kind of advice from a medical doctor if they're being a jerk to you. If you're like, vaccines cause autism, and you truly believe that as a nurse, and a doctor stands there and calls you a horrible name and verbally abuses you and talks about how stupid you are, you're not really going to be swayed by that argument. So I completely believe that there are medical professionals who do not want the vaccine because they don't understand the science, and the people who do understand the science, they may not be nice to them so much. And to be quite honest, nurses have a higher liability risk than doctors do. So if a doctor prescribed a medication that a patient was allergic to, the nurse would be liable if the nurse gave that medication to the patient and they were allergic. Not the doctor who prescribed it, but the nurse would be responsible. So the nurses have a lot more liability and stress on them than the doctors do, particularly with patient relations. And so if you have nurses who don't understand vaccines and they're being verbally abused by the people who do, they're going to pass on their misinformation to their patients because they care about their patients. And so it's a big problem. It is a problem, and it's something that I have seen and witnessed. And it was told to me when I was going to nursing school that nurses have to look out for each other because the doctors are horrible. And they kind of are a little bit, at least where I was. So, my goodness. I'm catching up on the chat. Dog says conspiracy theorists use a systematic rule of thumb that dismisses all facts apart from the points that they can understand, which is laced with misinformation. That's correct. Right. Stuck in Florida says, I tell people if they don't trust science and education, if you don't trust it, get your colonoscopy from a plumber. That's extremely painful. And I think they put you under general anesthesia for that. So that's not fun. Here's another interesting, this is a current opinion in psychology. I'm going to post this in the side chat here and you can have a look. So there was a review paper done. And wait, I got a better one. I got the whole paper here. That's where you can find. Here is the whole paper here. Oh, wait, sorry. That's not going to be okay, sorry. Well, you'll have to like Google that, sorry. Anyway, let me refresh this. Okay. So I managed to find the journal pre-proof of this here, and you can find it on ResearchGate. This is a short review on susceptibility to falling for fake political news. And these are essentially the highlights. Let me see if I can blow this up more. Okay, highlights. And I'm going to make me smaller and that a little bit bigger. All right. The highlights of this particular paper. Accuracy of true and fake news consistent with own political attitudes is overrated. Again, confirmation bias. Analytical thinking and susceptibility to falling for fake news are negatively related. So the more you critically think, the more likely you're not going to fall for fake news. Deliberation reduces susceptibility to falling for fake news. So that reflective side of your brain kicking in and learning and thinking about it. The more you think about it, that reduces your susceptibility to actually deliberate on the accuracy of something. And external validity of fake news tests need to be considered. And so that particular paper, and I managed to get a copy of it. You can go on ResearchGate. If you just Google this, you can get a journal pre-proof. And so the pre-proof means it wasn't it wasn't peer reviewed yet, but it's probably close to the same. So yes, it is a file on my computer, so sorry about that. But you can Google it. So you can't get that, so sorry about that. But you can Google, here. Oh, that's a Polish perspective. But you can go on ResearchGate and get it. That's how I found it. I just put that in there in PDF, and you can get a copy. And so it goes through this huge introduction. Where can I blow this up? Right here. So it's a good solid paper. I mean, it's 12 pages, so you could probably read it on a Saturday. And then they go through the introduction. Who falls for fake news? According to classic cognitive dissonance theory, cognitive inconsistencies are deemed uncomfortable. You know, you don't feel good. So that kind of falls into the cognitive bias. But you can, like I said, you can Google the title. That's what I did. Right down here. I'm going to copy this, copy link location. Was this it? Okay, I think this is it. Okay, I think that's it. That's a really long link. Oh, that's the Polish perspective. Sorry. I'm trying to find the one. That's the short review. I don't know where it went. Susceptibility. So, okay. Well, there you go. I was trying to see if I could find it. Anyway, so I have spent a little bit of time going through some of this. That was another paper, I think, that I found. So J.I. Person says, ScientistMel, so how do you train fact-resistant people to think analytically? That's a good question. The first thing you have to do is remove yourself as a threat. You have to remove yourself as a threat to them. And so when you're talking with people like that, they need to understand that you're a human too, and you're not here to hurt them or to cause them any pain. So relating your humanity to them is really, really important, and being approachable and considerate. That's the first thing you need to do. And then the second thing you could do is ask them, well, what are you afraid of with this? Or, you know, what are your thoughts about this? What's the thing that you're really afraid of here? And give them a space to talk about it. I'm really afraid of this. I'm afraid of that. And then you can start to go through and introduce little bits at a time information, making them feel like you're listening to them without berating them, allowing them a safe space to talk about what they're really afraid of. And then, you know, engage. And it's not going to be one conversation. It's going to be several. And this is something that I had to do when I was teaching evolution in the Bible Belt to a bunch of farm kids who said the devil planted the fossils. That's why evolution's wrong. And scientists have a conspiracy, and they're really just chicken bones. Dinosaur bones are really chicken bones. I heard a lot of interesting conspiracy theories. So removing the threat and saying, I'm not going to tell you what to think. But what I'd like to do is say, okay, what are you afraid of with this? What do you feel are the issues here? And then allow them a place to do that and say, it's okay. It's, you know, so trying to keep it a calm discussion is really important. And then introducing slowly little bits of evidence and say, hey, you know what, just think about it. It's all right. You don't have to like take this all now. But being patient with people. So it's really rough with some people. Hey, Brian Stevens, what's going on? Man, join us on Discord. I haven't been on Discord in a while, so I apologize for that. Alrighty. We have people yelling at each other. Oh, goodness. So we're catching up. I'm catching up on the chat. Oh, goodness. Hey, Stool. You just swallowed some 5G. You probably did. You probably did. All right. So, so those are some tips there. For that. Here's another interesting thing from Pew Review, and I'm going to copy and paste that here. Hey, kitty. How are you doing? All right, so this is another interesting article that I found. Let me do smaller me. There we go. All right, a look at the Americans who believe there is some truth to the conspiracy theory that COVID-19 was planned. So Pew Research did, again, perceptions. I really like the stuff that they do on perceptions of things. Oh, also, let's take a doggy cam break. My supervisor is hard at work right now. Making Z's and sawing logs. Must always have a doggy break from time to time. Doggy cam. All right. So here you go. Less educated Americans are more inclined to see some truth in conspiracy theory that COVID-19 was planned. And so about a third of Republicans, 34% of Republicans and independents who lean to the GOP say the theory that powerful people intentionally planned the COVID-19 outbreak is probably or definitely true, compared with 18% of Democrats and Democratic leaders. I wish I could make this a bit bigger. Let me see so you guys can see this. I'm going to throw this up here for a second, but you won't be able to hear me. Okay, I think, let's see. All right, there we go. I think you can hear me now. All right, so here, let's have a look at these particular stats. So this is where probably not true, definitely not true. So we have the conspiracy theories that are probably true versus not true. So we have about 36% or 12% of high school or less think, or overall, let's just say probably true or definitely true. About 48% of people high school or less. Some college is 38% college grad, 24% post grad, 15%. So even college graduates, a fourth, think that it's definitely true or probably true. About 20% say it's probably true. So these are pretty interesting numbers here. And we've got, it's worth noting that there is no significant difference in how likely partisans are to have heard at least a little about the theory. 72% of Republicans have heard of the claim compared with 70% of Democrats who haven't. So this is the idea that powerful people planned COVID-19, and these are the people who believe it. So the more educated you are, the less likely you are to believe it. Let's take a, so they have interactive data tool. That's cool. So let's see. There are some minor differences by age too. About a quarter of adults under the age of 65 say the theory is probably or definitely true, compared with 2 in 10 adults 65 and older. So age plays a role. And women are slightly more likely than men, 29% versus 21%, to see at least one truth in the conspiracy theory that powerful people planned the outbreak. So this is pretty interesting stuff. So how susceptible are you to falling for conspiracy theory? Are you afraid? If you start to see yourself kind of leaning towards that, ask yourself some questions, because anybody can fall for this kind of crap. Anybody can fall for this. Anybody can be, fooled. But that's kind of where the critical thinking plays a role. Question everything. It's okay to say, did a powerful person or powerful people plan the COVID-19? It's okay to ask that question, but make certain your sources are good sources. So, nobody would be saying, did the president plan an attempted coup on the Capitol? I don't think we would have been saying that about 10 years ago. I mean, somebody was like, the president's going to plan a coup to take over the government. This isn't something we would have said 10 years ago. So asking the question, in a time where there's so much unrest and so much, corruption, it's not wrong to ask the question, but make certain that you have the data to back up what you think the answer is. That's what's important. That's where critical thinking kicks in. And I'm catching up on the chat. Yeah, education doesn't mean smart or critical thinker. I know some pretty stupid people with PhDs or doctorates. I really do. It's just how it is. And if somebody, mentioned medical doctors, Dr. Oz, I don't know that he buys into his stuff, but he certainly sells it. I think it's Avigdo1. Any thoughts on social aspects? Flirfers who may be socially awkward being in the flirf club. Yes, I mentioned that earlier, actually, about the need to belong, to be part of a secret group, or to be part of a club. So the sense of belonging is really, really important, which is cool. Everybody wants to belong somewhere. I mean, that's kind of, the whole finding your tribe kind of thing. Let me pull up. Now I'm not so super bright because it's not like white screen right there. I do want to bring up something that I wrote once, really quickly. That's not it. I'm going to close that out. Let me see. I've brought the screen back. If you go to ScientistMel.com/articles, I'm going to pull this up really quick. All right. I really do need to revamp my website, guys. I'm going to put this in the side chat here. I've written quite a bit on this sort of thing. And you can, how is it that people fall for this stuff? And, open link a new tab. I think, let's see. And so let me go with smaller me. And this is the article that I wrote on how it is that people believe profound BS. How do they do that? How do they fall for this sort of thing? Why are people so easily grifted upon? And I've got like articles, like scientific, as far as scientific articles, different books associated. Bad Science by Ben Goldacre. It's great. And I kind of talk about that a bit in my article. But TLDR, basically all I'm saying here is communication is essential when it comes to relaying science content to the general population. Science has performed a substantial amount of research to show how people receive information and are influenced by language as well as bias. How you say words are important. So when we're sitting here going, well, Donald Trump's being impeached for citing an insurrection. Well, how he says words. I mean, that's all kind of also part of the propaganda. How you present your information is really important. And there's lots of different studies. People impressed by profound statements have low intelligence. So all that Deepak Chopra crap. Okay. Hearing smart language has an influence over reading smart language. So if you're speaking to somebody, that hearing the smart language is going to affect them more than if they read it. Accents alter perception of images. Plain language clears up misconceptions. You have confirmation bias. So if you're saying things that validate a person, that's going to pull them in. Ignoring facts, and also facts backfire. So there's lots of different science that's been done on this. How do you go about relaying information without sounding pompous or threatening, but at the same time maintain authority without dumbing down content to a level of drivel? Welcome to Dr. Fauci's world. Welcome to my world as a college professor. How do you take this and come from a position of authority, discussing hard concepts without belittling the person, dumbing it down, or making them feel stupid? So you have it's very measured. It's very measured how you do these things. And this is what we see with propaganda. You have to keep your bias in check, but you can use other people's biases against them, can't you? And that's a lot of what manipulative people do. And we see this when people dive into conspiracy theories, who join cults, that sort of thing. They have that sense of belonging. They have that sense of where they're connecting with another person. They're saying words they can relate to, and they're understanding, hey, this is what it is. And so I go into a little bit of this in this particular article. You want to speak with authority, but in simplistic terms. So you're the president of the United States, and you're saying all these things in simplistic terms. They're calls to action over and over and over again. Then you're saying things that people want to hear. You're confirming their bias. And you're the president, you're giving them permission to do things so they can pass the buck of responsibility to you. So this all kind of ties in together with a lot of the conspiracy theorists. So somebody asked before, how do you talk to a person like this? One of the things you do, remove yourself as a threat to the person's belief system. So when you're going through here, if you have a look at my article, I'd love to know what you think. You discuss the elephant in the room, state that we are people who care about others and that it is okay for us to not have the same beliefs. Be caring and considerate, allowing the person a space to both hold on to their beliefs and to hear the evidence without fear of a fight. This is how I got through teaching evolution to a bunch of farm kids in the Bible Belt. This stuff here. You need to also make it known that some beliefs are oppressive and harmful. Nazis, racism, sexism, etc. It's important to note that people who subscribe to such thought processes can escalate to potentially dangerous levels, right? We've seen that just a couple weeks ago. Many of these visuals are irrational and outright evil. This type of thinking has not been shown to be overcome with reason alone, as we've had entire wars over it, as well as civil rights movements, in order to overcome oppressive thinking. Yet, this is another article topic for another time. I'm focusing on the reachable and rational people. Okay. I don't know what happened. I had some kind of weird computer thing happen and then everything had to like restart. So this is nuts. I apologize for that mild inconvenience. That's what it is, man. It's a conspiracy to silence me, a small content creator trying the best that I can. It's a conspiracy, guys. People hate me that much. It's the whole internet. I just know it. Anywho, go check out that article that I just posted if you want to read my stuff. We're back. You change one setting and everything crashes. I got the blue screen of death again. I'm telling you, after 2 hours, I get the blue screen of death when I'm doing this. It doesn't matter if I'm running it on Restream or through OBS. So I think it might be my antivirus. So Mel goes out, Mel comes in. You can't explain that. I'm telling you. You can't explain that. But at least it restarted. And it was still live, so I didn't technically lose the connection. It kept going, even though it wasn't pretty for a short period of time. That's good news at least, right? So we mentioned merch. We mentioned merch, guys. I got a shop. I got a shop. I got a shop. And you too can check out my shop. I have different categories. I need to fix this, guys. I really do need to make this like better looking store. I don't know how to do that. That's one of my goals. I got sciencey clothing. I got housewares. I also have a blocked by series, sciencey clothing. So you can check out my sciencey stuff. I've got like face masks if you need those. What a scientist looks like. It's just cute, fun things. I'm going to send some t-shirts to other content creators. And I'm like, you better wear this. This is one of my favorites, though. That data, though. That's some sexy data right there. I'm just telling you. That is some sexy data. You know what I mean? You want your data sexy. This is for some of those cheeky folks out there. The world ain't a flat booty, you know. That's supposed to be funny. Grow a pair. For my, grow a pair. That's kind of cheeky too. But you can find little cheeky fun stuff on here. And I do have a whole section where proceeds are donated to different charities. This is one of my favorite shirts. I love this. I wear it when I teach. So you can check out that stuff. It's pretty reasonable price. But if you're like, I want to know about the stuff where charities are benefited, this is part of my Block By series. These are the different charities that are represented. We got like hats. Would you just shut up, man? Biden 2020. That goes to the Black Lives Matter movement, as does these t-shirts. This benefits the Trevor Project. So we've got lots of different stuff. I've met Satan. That's a particular lady who was very ugly to me on the internet. So I made a t-shirt of some of the stupid things that she says. That's my response. I don't do response videos. I make merch and donate it to charities that people that are not nice, the charities they hate. I also have one for PETA. PETA blocked me on. Where's my PETA stuff? You can get flip-flops. Stuff goes to Planned Parenthood. Where is it? PETA was some of the first stuff. There you go. You can get a crying bunny PETA shirt. But there you go. That's just some of the stuff that you can get there. And then there's pictures and all kinds of interesting things. I do plan on reorganizing my store, but it just hasn't been, I don't do this for the money. I do it to, help promote correct information. So there you go. Let's see. I have been replaced by an imposter. I didn't even know David Ick watched Mouse's KCA. Randy, how you doing? I'm catching up. All right. I don't like bringing back the blue screen of death. It's not fun for me. And I still have work for it. It was the butt probing aliens. You know, I wonder if that could be like, you know how the board game Clue is? I wonder if we could do a conspiracy theorist version of Clue in the spaceship with a butt probe, you know, and a laser gun, you know, tinfoil hat in the doctor's office. You know, you could have like a neighborhood, like a Clue neighborhood, except conspiracy theorists. I think that would be funny. I think that would be funny. We survived it. Gonna wait for the Smarticle shirt. I'm gonna write that down. I'm a grown up now, guys. I don't know if you knew that. I'm a grown up. I've had to resort to doing stuff like writing out my lists and stuff. It's tear off sheets. So I have to write down things that I'm doing. You can't see that. Like things that I'm doing. And I go through and I check off my list. So I'm trying to be more adult. Because I haven't had to do this at home. You know. And after being a year at home. Smarticles t-shirt. Smarticles t-shirt. So I wrote that down, right? I wrote that down in my book here. You can't see that. So great. But that's my book of stuff. And then I put it on my list of things. That sounds incredibly sciencey, doesn't it? There's brains under this hat. That was a grown-up citation needed. True. I do need a citation to prove that I'm a grown-up. I don't know that I'm there yet. People are like, what do you want to be when you grow up? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. Good at the adulting. I'm not good at the adulting, guys. That is a gross misconception. I'm not good at the adulting. I have to make lists and I have to pep talk myself to do adulting things. I'm not going to lie to you. I have to give myself pep talks because I don't like paying bills. I don't like doing my taxes. I forget to pay things and I really just need to set up to auto pay. But then I'm not great at adulting. I need a handler. So I need a handler. You know, that's all right. Let's check in on Nina real quick before we sign off. My supervisor, hard at work, counting sheep. Yeah, she knocked down all of my pop vinyls over there. But it's okay. I have the Peter Pan syndrome. I probably do, Mr. Shadow Kitty. You got the Peter Pan syndrome too? Yeah. I don't like autopay either because what if they mess up and send too much? I don't know. And then they have access to my account now. What if they just decide they want? It's just weird. I have a conspiracy theorist about doing autopay and giving people my bank information. You know, maybe I'm weird like that. I need a bookkeeper. I probably do. Well, we are over 2 hours now, so let me wrap this up. So essentially what we talked about today, we talked about the science behind conspiracy theories. Why do they think like this? Why do they do the things like this? Why are they this? But we could all fall prey to that. So it's really important we keep that reflective side of our brain and we keep our biases in check. Understand that, you know, bad news, yeah, that's not fun. So if something makes you feel bad, maybe take a break from it for a little bit and then get into a headspace to where you can receive that information. Because confirmation bias is a thing. It's for everybody. Everybody has it. Just keep it in check. Cognitive dissonance is a thing that everybody has. So if you're hearing things that are causing a very strong emotional reaction, take a break, process it. Then when you're in a different state of mind and you feel like you're able to kind of thoroughly investigate that information, do it then. I have to do that sometimes. Certain things I'm just like, gosh, this makes me so mad. I am so sick of this. When you just reach a point, it's take a break. Come back to it after you had a little bit of time. So I'm going to read from Mr. Rogers. The World According to Mr. Rogers. I'm just going to find a spot. Let me see. All right. Here we go. Here's something about strong. We've been talking about how being wrong equates to weakness. Let's talk about strength. So this is from Mr. Rogers, from The Courage to Be Yourself, from his his wife did pass away recently. Yeah, she was 92. Gosh, that was a heck of a story between them, huh? So Mr. Rogers says, when I was a boy, I used to think that strong meant having big muscles, great physical power. But the longer I live, the more I realize that real strength has much more to do with what is not seen. Real strength has to do with helping others, you know? So maybe consider, what is strength? Being able to help other people. So while some conspiracy theorists may think that they're helping other people, this isn't really, it's more it's self-absorbed, right? It's more self-centered on what they think. It's not so much that they're helping other people, so much as it's helping them. So we'll read that again. When I was a boy, I used to think that strong meant having big muscles, great physical power. But the longer I live, the more I realize that real strength has much more to do with what is not seen. Real strength has to do with helping others. So there we go. The World According to Mr. Rogers. I love this book. It's great. It helps me stay focused, because I would think, what would Mr. Rogers say? Would he be proud of me today? And sometimes Mr. Rogers is not going to be proud of me. But most of the time I think he would be. So there you go. Okay, so Mel, I'm watching you on TV and it's very odd. Christina Rain. I go back and watch some of my shows to kind of check and see how it looks and how it's, how it is. All right. So you'll have to read that. I love that book. So I think we're going to try to have a show tomorrow. I need to check with Mero because she knows I've been out just trying to deal with the family stuff and all that, particularly with COVID-19 and holidays and all of those things. It's just been kind of a challenge. But hopefully we'll have better news in the coming weeks. But I'm back now, so not certain what I'm talking about next weekend. So if you have ideas, shoot me some ideas. I tend to post polls, so just kind of feelers to see what people are interested in. And, I think I'll leave it at that. I will be on Hannibal and Monty's show accepting a Golden Turd Award. So do check out Hannibal and Monty's Golden Turd Awards. I'm accepting an award, guys, on that show. And I do the voice of that little character that you see up there. But do check out their show. And I will see you guys probably tomorrow, but certainly next weekend. And I'll say, you always make each day special for me. You know how? By just your being you. I will see you next time, guys. Have a great day. Sending squishy science hugs. Bye. Thanks for being here.